All right. Hi, everyone. This is Dierk from Prestozon. We're also joined by Kevin and Ariel from the Success Team, who I'm sure all of you know. And today we are going to talk about the new functionality that we've just launched into beta and are very close to launching live on the site, which is product targeting rule compatibility. We're going to lead off today with a quick discussion of product targeting in general and what it is and some of the various strategies that you can do with it. And then we're going to dive into the new rule compatibility and kind of let you know what it means, what it doesn't mean, and what it will mean moving forward. So I think we have an hour blocked off. I'd be very surprised if we need to take the full hour to go through this, but we wanted to have that time just in case we had any questions. So feel free to throw your questions in. At the end, even if you have unrelated questions, we could throw those on to the very end. So everyone that's just here for PT could head out and we can answer a couple unrelated questions if you'd like. But even with all that, I doubt we'll take the full hour of your time. So, hopefully you'll get a half an hour, 15 minutes back. All right. So Kevin or Ariel, do you have anything else administrative to add before I kind of hop into the explanation?
No, you can always write in a question down at the bottom, standard Zoom webinar etiquette. There's a Q&A there at the bottom. So if you want to type something in, either I'll respond via text or I'll throw it to Dierk, who can answer it live on the call.
Great. All right. So to start off, let's just have a brief conversation about exactly what product targeting is. Product targeting really describes two types of targeting on the Amazon platform, and those two targeting types are consistent across various different Amazon entities. So the traditional sort of three baseline Amazon PPC advertising structures that you have are sponsored products, sponsored brands, and sponsored display. All three of these have product targeting capabilities. And I'll go into what Prestozon supports a little later, but all three of these have product targeting capabilities. And I call them two distinct targeting types because there are product targeting for categories and then product targeting for individual ASINs. And these two target types behave differently, and you can potentially treat them as very different beasts. So the first and easiest to understand is the ASIN target. You can roughly compare these to exact match keywords on the search term side of things on Amazon PPC. ASIN targets target individual ASINs. And so you can use these to target a competitor or target a complementary product, right? If you sell socks and someone is buying shoes, maybe you want to target shoes in order to get people to buy your socks. So there's tons of different ways to use the ASIN targets. The important thing to understand about product targeting in general that makes it a little bit different than your traditional keyword targeting is the location of the advertisements. So when you are using traditional keyword targeting, someone is typing into the search bar a certain phrase or a word, and then you are showing up on the search results of that search, right? So if someone searches magic hat, you are showing up when that person searches magic hat on the search results as an advertisement. Product targeting, both category and ASIN, works a little bit differently. So rather than showing up on a search, no one's actually typing in these ASINs, right? No one is typing in a random series of numbers and letters in order to find your product. Instead, what this is denoting is an advertisement that will show up on the ASIN that the target is referring to. So on the ASIN detail page itself. This is super valuable so that, if someone is looking at one of your competitors, they will see your advertisement while they are looking at your competitors. Conversely, if someone is looking at your product, you can potentially protect your own products by showing other products of yours on your product detail page so that you're more likely to get a sale rather than one of your competitors. So we typically call that defense, or defending your ASIN detail page. And that is true both for ASIN targets, which are targeting individual ASINs, and the second type of product targeting, which is category targeting. I don't happen to have any category targets in the staging environment, but category targets are super cool and super flexible. I very highly recommend going into the, if you're not using PT at all, going into the campaign creation section of the Amazon portal, of the advertising console, and creating a product targeting ad group with category targets. You can target, if you are an author, you can target various genres, and those genres get very specific. If you are a consumer product seller, you can dig right down to very, very niche categories for your products. You can also advertise on other products, or other product categories. So, often the online analogy is that of, a traditional retail store. And there's multiple types of advertising, in a traditional retail store, like if you think of a supermarket, right? There's the location where, you are looking at a product, and right next to that product is another product, right? And so maybe you switch. There's the other type of placement where, maybe you're looking at olive oil and it's selling balsamic vinegar right next to it, right? Because even though these are not competitors, they're often bought together. And so that's, different aisle sort of placement marketing. So both of those things you can have with product targeting. It's super powerful. You can also control by different star ratings. So you can only advertise on things that are below your product star rating. You can partition by price. There's so much power with category targeting. And even though there are some analogs, just like ASIN targeting is analogous to exact match keywords, there are some analogs for broad match targeting to category, but categories are so much more, there's so much more to them. There's so much more that you can do that the analogy really breaks down quickly. So I highly suggest taking a look at those and seeing what you can do. And like I said earlier, category targets, even though they're targeting in a very different way, the aspect of where the placement is still holds. You are going to show up on the ASIN page for the ASINs within, that meet the criteria for whatever category you're targeting, whether that be a certain genre, a certain product type, a certain price range, et cetera, et cetera. And so just tons and tons of opportunity there. I also want to point out, so I keep saying that the placement is going to be on the ASIN detail page. That is true 84% of the time. So Amazon does play a little bit fast and loose with your with your ads. So if you are targeting on a particular ASIN, they do reserve the right to potentially put that placement somewhere else. So if a search, for instance, is so obscure that it doesn't have enough advertisements, but the ASIN you're targeting shows up in that search, they might actually put your ad on that. It happens very rarely. 84% of the time, you're going to be on the ASIN detail page, but there is a certain percentage where you can show up in different placements. And so just something to keep in mind. I just throw that caveat out there because someone, if someone comes to me and says, hey, I showed up on this search result, but I only had an ASIN target anywhere near there, or I was only using ASIN targets for this account. I just, want to throw that out there, that it is possible for you to show up on search results. It is even possible, I believe, for you to show up in a headline placement when you're doing ASIN. Don't quote me on that one, but I think that I saw that statistic somewhere. So just keep all of that in mind. And so that is a quick rundown on just like what product targeting is, what we're talking about, and why it's important. And I think even though product targeting is, it's doing okay in terms of performance. It's kind of some accounts do really well with it, other accounts struggle with it. But I really think that it's the future for Amazon PPC in a lot of ways, because you can do so much with it from a strategic standpoint. You can do things like basket building, where, if you've got multiple related products, you can try to inundate all of your products with your other products and try to get people to buy more than one, right? You can do things like upselling. So you can, for instance, if you've got a very expensive product, but with a really good star rating, you can target cheaper products with worse star ratings and try to get that upsell, right? Because you're showing value by having a higher star rating. And that's stuff that is tough to do. You don't have that control when you're just attacking a particular search term, right? You don't have the control over, exactly what products you're competing against. Whereas with PT, you do have a lot of that control. So just super exciting that they're expanding it out. They recently expanded it out to sponsored brands, and then they have it on sponsored display, I think, for everyone. I think that was a recent announcement that they have or are going to expand sponsored display product targeting out to everyone, in addition to their audience targeting. So just really excited that they're leaning into it, because I think the strategic opportunities for product targeting are really, in a lot of ways, not quite limitless, but there's just a lot of really cool things you can do. So now that we've kind of had that quick overview, I'd like to kind of switch gears to talk about the new functionality that Prestozon has released, what exactly it means, and also, some stuff that we've already that we've had before, but I just want to kind of highlight that it is there. Before I jump into that, Kevin, Ariel, anything I missed on the explanation, anything you want to make sure that I get to, or are there any questions in the QA that we want to hit before I switch gears?
No, I think that covers a basic understanding of all that. Let's jump in and see what we have on Prestozon.
All right, great. So I want to start off by saying that not in the release, but something that we've had for a while, but something that people often miss, is product targeting has been supported on both sponsored products and sponsored brands for bid optimization for some time now. And so even though you could not create targets in Prestozon for product targeting, you could create them in the Amazon portal, have everything set up, and then we could still manage the bid optimization for you. So that is still true. That has been true. And for sponsored display, it is not true yet, but it will be hopefully soon. So sponsored display used to be this sort of strange case where they only had audiences, which was this, sort of amorphous, non-traditional product, kind of targeting type that we didn't really deal with at Prestozon. But now that they have product targeting capabilities and that stuff is coming over the API, we're going to open that up for bid optimization. So sponsored products, sponsored brands, we have bid optimization. Sponsored display will be coming in the future. So that has already been there. And now we can kind of talk about what is new. So what is new is we are now allowing the creation of positive and negative product targets in Prestozon. So you can now create rules where you are creating product targets. So here we have an example here where we have cold brew PAT test. In fact, let's just start from scratch. So I'm looking at this cold brew PAT test, and let's create a new product target rule. So PT rule, let's call it PT promotion rule, webinar test. And so as you can see, you have all the same advanced options. You can still set a threshold. You can still set your max ACoS. You can bring whatever ad groups you want to bring in here. It makes the most sense to bring in an auto right now. So I'm going to do that and bring that in. And as you can see, the UI is a little bit different now. Instead of having your traditional, EBP over in step 4 for exact, broad, and phrase, respectively, if we see that it is a PAT ad group, we are going to switch the UI so you can now make a PAT target. As you can see, there's only one option here. We only have the option to create an ASIN target. And the reason for that is it's difficult, like I said, the analogy for category to broad breaks down pretty quickly, right? If we were to try to create a category target based on a conversion, which is what our rules are based on, right? Prestozon's promotion rules are always based on a conversion on a search term, or in this case, on an ASIN detail page placement. It would be hard for us to decide, well, what, categories are so complicated. What category do we use? Do we just promote the product category, or do we just promote the star rating or the pricing? Or, there's so many different options. We don't allow yet for category, for category promotion, but we're always open to those things. So if you have an idea on what the most logical promotion would be, we're definitely happy to think about that and probably expand into sort of categories as a, quote unquote research campaign. But as of now, you can promote an ASIN target, and then you also have the opportunity to negate. So, obviously you have this negate option in the PAT test, but we wouldn't want to negate there, but you can negate in the auto campaign. So this is a recent addition from Amazon, right? For years, Amazon would not allow for the negation of ASINs. Well, that's not entirely true, right? They would allow you to negate an ASIN, but it would only negate the text string of that ASIN as if it were a search term related keyword, right? They would not let you negate an ASIN in terms of negating the product. That changed a few months ago in preparation for their expansion of product targeting. And so we are now passing that functionality on to you through the promotion rules. So as you can see here, this is a very simple what we would call search term isolated. So now this is an ASIN placement isolated rule where we are promoting to the cold brew PAT test by creating an ASIN target there. And we are subsequently negating that same ASIN in the auto campaign. So what does this mean functionally? If you are on Amazon or if a customer was on Amazon and they went onto for instance, a competitor's ASIN page, and you were running this auto campaign, there's a chance that this auto campaign would put your ASIN as a placement on that ASIN detail page. The customer clicked your ad through the auto campaign, decided they liked your product, they purchased, they made a conversion on that advertisement. And so when we get that data, we would then promote to the cold brew PAT test and negate in the auto, so that now that ASIN detail page is only going to be surfacing ads for your product via the manual campaign, and it will no longer be surfacing through the auto. So exact same structure as a search term isolated structure in traditional keywords, only now we're doing it with PATs. So super simple. In case you're wondering, hey, how do I, add this to my existing structure? The nice thing is you can do both. So for instance, if you already had, a traditional promotion structure, so this would be the traditional promotion structure. This is a research instead of an exact. Let me see if I have a performance, and we'll make one a little bit cleaner. So this is our traditional structure, right? We've got performance here, a research here, and an auto here. We are on conversion, creating a negative phrase in the auto, a negative exact in the broad. In the research, we're making a positive broad in the research, and we're making a positive exact in the performance, right? So we are search term isolated. We have a performance, a research, and an auto, and there's no overlap for search terms. It is as simple as, now that this functionality is working, you can create a cold brew, you can create a PAT ad group or a PAT campaign in the Amazon portal, and then you can come in to Prestozon, you can add it using the ad group search, and then you can add the target, and then you can add the negative here. And Prestozon will automatically parse between the two. So if this auto gets a conversion on a search term, it will run through the search term flow. If this auto gets a conversion on the product targeting on the Asin page, then it will run through the product targeting flow. This works perfectly fine, having both in the same rule. Alternatively, you could set up a separate rule. Functionally, it's pretty much the same. It's just kind of how you want to partition things. It might help with searching, so that you've got different rule names, so that on the suggestion page, you can search different things. Additionally, actually, I'm going to go into some other side stuff. Is there anything else about the functionality, Kevin or Ariel, that I missed or you want to highlight? I'm going to talk about some things that were included in the launch and some things that are not included in the launch, in terms of SB and SD. But is there anything on the base functionality that I missed?
I don't think so. I was just going to suggest mentioning everything that was included in the release, so you're way ahead of me.
Okay, perfect.
I think I just want to call out, as of right now, if you're new to PT, you'll need to create a PT campaign or ad group in the Amazon portal. That's not supported on the Prestozon side at the moment.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely. So let's start with some things that are included. So sponsored brands, formerly, both for traditional keywords and product targeting, was not supported in our rules. That is no longer the case. So not only are you getting product targeting, but sponsored brands is now going to be supported for the promotion rules. And so you can now add sponsored brands campaigns to rules, promote traditional keywords into sponsored brands, or promote ASINs into sponsored brands, product targeting ad groups. That is now supported on both sides. And it is also supported across different ad types. So you can, for instance, have a structure where you promote from an auto campaign to an SB campaign. You could also, promote from a sponsored products campaign to a sponsored brands campaign. You can cross promote. The only thing you have to worry about is what the ad group is created for, right? You have to create separate ad groups for traditional keywords versus product targeting keywords. So make sure that you've got that sorted. But in terms of promotion from SB to SB, that's perfectly fine. And vice versa. You could have SB as a source and promote to SP. So whatever you want there. So that is now fully supported. So that's a big sort of benefit of this build. We're super excited about. Things that are not included. Number one, as Kevin alluded to, the campaign creation for PT is not included. So we have not revamped the one-click campaign setup yet to include product targeting campaigns. So if you want to start using product targeting and you have not yet, you will have to go into the Amazon portal, go into the campaign creation, and create a new campaign with an ad group that is product targeting focused. The reason I kind of go back and forth between saying ad groups and campaigns is, technically speaking, you can have both traditional keyword ad groups and product targeting ad groups within the same campaign. Generally, Prestozon does not suggest that, because there is the potential that traditional keyword campaigns and product targeting campaigns, especially at first, are going to perform very, very differently for you. If you have them in the same campaign, that means you need to manage both of their budgets together. Whereas if you make a new campaign that is specifically for product targeting with a product targeting ad group in it, then you can manage the budget for your product targeting separately from the budget for your traditional keywords. This is super helpful, especially as you get started and you start poking around. You can keep that budget really low and limit your exposure. So I would suggest going in to the Amazon advertising console, creating a campaign with a product targeting ad group, and start from there. And then once you create that, you can then come in to the rules and either add it to an existing rule or create a new rule from scratch in order to get started. Some other things that are not included, sponsored display PT is a little bit newer, and it is also not compatible at launch. As I mentioned earlier, we're working on expanding SD to the bid optimization, and hopefully when we work on that, we can also add SDPT to this promotion structure, but it is not going to be available immediately at launch. and so I think those are the big things that I wanted to highlight there. Kevin, you were on the pulse of things that I had to tell them that we didn't do. Is there anything else big that I need to cover?
That's all I can think of at the moment.
All right. Well, that was everything that I wanted to go through. I also want to mention, so I showed you the positive rules, the keyword promotion rules. This functionality also extends to negative rules. If I go to my test again, you can now create negative rules where you're, for instance, looking for a click threshold or a spend threshold, and you will be able to create negatives. This is one of our test accounts. Another sneak preview for, actually, I see a couple of people on that I've actually talked about this strategy separate from this build, but we are working on allowing you to create positive keywords on negative rules. Super excited for that for strategic reasons. Some people don't like negating search terms. They want to just lower bid when they have a poor performer. And so this positive keyword creation on negative keyword rules is going to allow you to partition poor performing search terms into a poor performer campaign, and then see if you can rehabilitate that. So just a little sneak preview that that's something that we're also working on, but a little separate from this particular build. So unless there are any direct questions or anything like that, I'm going to switch gears and kind of talk about where we are on the beta. This is, after all, just for beta participants right now. So unless we have anything else we want to go through, I'm going to just do a quick recap of where we're on the beta and what our timeline looks like. All right, I will take that silence as acquiescence to move on. All right, so thank you everyone that is online. I kind of made that spiel generic so that we can give it to people once we launch to the greater Prestozon user base. But everyone on here right now are beta participants, and thank you so much for your feedback so far. Most of the feedback has been a lot of kind of little UI tweaks, some wording things. Now that we're promoting not just not just search terms and not just keywords, we have to switch everything to targets and try to work on that verbiage. So we're working on that, and thank you for everyone who's called out those things. We do have a couple instances of things that are blockers for a larger launch. One thing that we want to bring up is if you have created Asin targets manually, we haven't figured out the exact parameters to have this happen, but it looks like our duplicate check is cap sensitive. So if you've created manual Asin targets in the past, and then we are promoting, if the caps versus lowercase don't match up exactly, we may be creating duplicate targets. So that is something that we have to the developers to fix. And that is, I think, the only remaining blocker for launch. So if you have seen anything else that you think may be a blocker for us for launch, please let us know. We will let you know if someone else brought it to us and we've already fixed it, or we will, thank you very much for participating in our beta, and we will get it to the devs to make sure that we get that fixed before the greater launch. But I believe that is the only thing. Great question. The question is, do we want to use caps or lowercase if we're manually creating something? So our connection is sending them over as lowercase because I'm not sure if I'll have one, but because we promote the search term as is, right? And so we are promoting it as lowercase. And I believe if you're putting it in manually, it automatically makes it caps. quite frankly, so we have been promoting as lowercase is the answer. And if you can put yours in lowercase manually, put it in lowercase. Quite frankly, we're just going to fix the duplicate check to, to ignore case, basically. So that should not, that we'll be doing that before we launch live. But that's an answer to your question, is do lowercase if possible. There's a question from an author about ISBNs or Asins. The answer to that is, when we built out this functionality, we also built it out to be compatible with ISBNs. So ISBNs are basically a subtype of Asins. They are the same character length as Asins. The only difference is they are numeric, whereas Asins are alphanumeric. And so the functionality is built to work with ISBNs. If it's not, and if you've seen that it's not promoting ISBNs, let us know, and we will, we will see if there's something wrong with our net to catch ISBNs. But the idea is to have that working as part of this functionality. Let's see, anything else? Oh, gotcha. So the actual question is about this little A, right? And that doesn't work on ISBNs. I believe we have a ticket for that, but I am not sure. But I have heard that, so I think you probably wrote in to us about it. And so I think we have a ticket for that, to have that added. Something else we need to add is, if you see here, and sorry core people, you don't have this little chart, but if you click on this little chart, it brings you to the keyword detail page. That's not available on Asins. It actually is, and it's just that we're missing the button. So that's something else that we have. And so as PT becomes more important, we'll definitely get that added as well. We did have a question just about a specific bug. I was not ignoring that question. I just don't, off the top of my head, know what it is. So that's something that we'll have to answer.
I told Jason I'll follow up with him in the ticket queue on the specific bug.
I was not ignoring it. I just don't know about it. Cool. What else? Is there anything else? Like I said, we've got that one kind of big thing that we're working on, but please write in. That is the point of the beta, is to find out, things that we need to tweak and fix. And I'll try to find out about the ASBN stuff, and maybe Ariel can put that in the author Facebook group, because that's obviously only going to affect authors. Cool. Anything else? Anything on Kevin's side?
I'm good. Covered everything on my list.
Yeah, all set.
All right. Well, 25 minutes put back in everyone's day.
Dierk, this is a record for you. You can.
I know. It's the first time I've ever been under time. So I'm just going to keep gabbing for the next 25 minutes and see how long I can stall you before people give up and leave. No, thank you, everyone. Thank you for participating in the beta. Thank you, for being some of our best, partners and helping us make Prestozon better. We really appreciate it. And obviously, we'll probably have some more correspondence, but then you'll see the full announcement go out once everyone else gets to experience product targeting promotion. So thank you, everyone, and have a good Monday, and happy Thanksgiving to everyone in the US, and have a great holiday.
Thanks, everybody.